Betrayal on my birthday, how I found out about my wife's affair with my best friend. Birthdays have always made me uncomfortable. Not because I'm getting older or because I hate attention, but because, deep down, I never really knew how to celebrate myself. I always felt like I didn't deserve the spotlight. But last year, on my 35th birthday, I woke up feeling different. Hopeful. I thought maybe this time, things would be different. My wife, Lena, had been acting, not strange, but different. Over the previous couple of weeks, she had been more affectionate. She left little notes for me in the kitchen, sent texts during the day, ones that actually made me smile, and even made an effort to sit down and talk after dinner instead of burying herself in her phone. I noticed it, of course. I chalked it up to her finally feeling a little more secure in her new job and maybe realizing we'd been drifting for a while. Then there was Ethan. My best friend since high school. The guy who knew everything, my worst moments, my biggest secrets, my dumbest jokes. We'd been inseparable for years, even when life tried to pull us in different directions. He was the kind of friend who could walk into my house without knocking, and no one would bat an eye. He was also Lena's friend. I introduced them years ago when we first started dating. The three of us would hang out often, especially back in the early days of our marriage. We'd have game nights, go hiking, or just sit around drinking coffee and talking about everything and nothing. It felt natural. Easy. I never saw a reason to worry. That morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. Lena was in the kitchen humming, actually humming, like something out of a sitcom. She had made a full breakfast spread, eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, even pancakes. I couldn't remember the last time she cooked like this. "Happy birthday, babe," she said, turning around with a spatula in one hand and a smile that hit me like sunlight. "You deserve a real breakfast today." I laughed. "This is amazing. Did you wake up at 5 a.m. or something?" "Closer to 6, she replied. "Totally worth it." We sat down together, and for a while, it felt like how things used to be. She even brought out a little wrapped box and slid it across the table toward me. Inside was a watch I'd been eyeing online but never actually bought. It was expensive. Too expensive, honestly, for our budget. "You shouldn't have," I said, almost whispering. "Don't be silly," she replied. "You never buy things for yourself." It was time. Looking back now, I can't stop replaying that moment, her smile, the way her hand lingered on mine, the glint of something unreadable in her eyes. Was it guilt? Was it love? I still don't know. That afternoon, Ethan came over to help set up for the small birthday dinner Lena insisted on throwing. Just a few friends, nothing big. He walked in like he always did, carrying a six-pack and some chips. "Birthday boy," he called out. "You're officially old." "Thanks, man. Glad you're here." We embraced, a quick half-hug with a slap on the back, like we always did. There was nothing unusual about it. Nothing off. Ethan and Lena exchanged a smile, a simple one. Friendly. I noticed it, but I didn't register it. Why would I? The three of us moved around the house, setting up snacks, checking the grill, prepping the drinks. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have them both. My wife and my best friend, working together to make my day special. I remember feeling a deep sense of peace. It was the last time I felt that way. Around 6, the rest of the guests began to arrive. Some co-workers, Lena's sister and her husband, a couple of friends from the gym. The house was alive with laughter, music, and the smell of grilled food. I had a beer in my hand and Lena by my side. Ethan manned the grill like he always did, flipping burgers with theatrical flair, getting everyone to laugh with his dumb stories. And still, nothing seemed wrong. It wasn't until later, when the crowd started thinning out and the sun began to set, that things started to shift. I went inside to grab more ice. The kitchen was empty. Or at least I thought it was. As I turned toward the freezer, I heard something from down the hall, just the tail end of a conversation. Quiet. Too quiet. I paused. It was coming from the guest room. I don't know what made me move toward the door. Maybe it was the tone, or maybe something in my gut was finally waking up. The door wasn't shut all the way. It was open just a crack. Enough to hear. "He doesn't suspect anything," Lena's voice said. My heart stopped. My fingers tightened around the bag of ice, and for a moment, I didn't move. Then Ethan's voice came, lower. We have to be careful. This can't blow up tonight. There was silence after that. A long, heavy silence. I couldn't breathe. I backed away, moving as quietly as I could, the ice bag crinkling in my hand like it was screaming. I walked back to the kitchen, dumped the ice in the cooler, and stood there, staring at nothing. My mind raced. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe they were talking about something else. A surprise? A joke? Anything but what it sounded like. I went back outside, smiled like nothing was wrong, and tried to pretend I hadn't just heard the ground crack open beneath me. But the seed was planted. And it would only grow from here. After the party ended and everyone was gone, the house felt too quiet. It always did after gatherings, but this time it was different. Lena was in the bathroom brushing her teeth, humming again. That same tune from the morning. It grated on me now. I stood in front of the bathroom door for a moment, just watching the light seep out from underneath it. I wanted to ask her. I wanted to throw open the door and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Because I didn't have proof. Because maybe I'd misunderstood. Because I didn't want to be that guy. Instead, I mumbled something about being tired and crawled into bed. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the door, just barely ajar. I heard her voice in my head on repeat, he doesn't suspect anything. I heard Ethan's voice. We have to be careful. What the hell did that mean? By morning, I had convinced myself it was a misunderstanding. A joke taken out of context. Maybe Lena was planning a surprise, or Ethan was helping her with something secretive but innocent. That had to be it. I couldn't believe the alternative. I wasn't ready to. But something inside me had shifted. I started watching them differently. Over the next few days, I paid attention to everything, the way they spoke to each other, how often they texted, the subtle glances I might have otherwise missed. It was like stepping into a version of my life where all the colors were slightly off. Nothing was outright damning, but it was there. The familiarity. The closeness that went just a little beyond what felt right. And then came the phone. Lena had left hers on the nightstand one morning while she was in the shower. I stared at it like it was radioactive. I'd never snooped before. I believed in trust. We both did. That was always one of our unspoken rules. But rules start to crumble when your world feels like it's slipping through your fingers. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a few friendly messages with Ethan that would make me feel ridiculous for ever doubting her. But the truth never comes quietly. I opened her messages. They'd been texting constantly. Not just casual chatter. There were conversations that stretched over days, jokes, inside references, emojis that felt too warm, too flirtatious. And then there were the photos. Nothing explicit. Just pictures of Lena at home, in her robe, or lying in bed with messy hair and no makeup. The kinds of photos you send to someone who's not just a friend. My throat closed. I scrolled further, digging through the timeline. My stomach dropped when I realized something even worse. These messages had started months ago. Before Lena started acting more affectionate. Before she got the new job. Before I ever noticed anything was wrong. She wasn't warming up to me again. She was covering her tracks. I put the phone down and sat on the edge of the bed, head in my hands. The shower was still running. My birthday was 3 days ago. 3 days. What kind of person does that? I should have confronted her. I should have screamed. But instead, I did what I always did, I froze. I waited. I thought, maybe if I had more proof, something undeniable, I could confront them and they wouldn't be able to gaslight me or twist it around. So I started watching. Closely. That week, I paid attention to everything. I noticed how Lena smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. How she got dressed up for casual errands. How she kept her phone face down every time we sat together. And Ethan, he started coming around less, but when he did, he couldn't look me in the eye. And I still pretended nothing was wrong. But it was eating me alive. I started sleeping less. I barely touched my food. I made excuses not to go out or socialize. Lena noticed, of course, but I told her it was work stress. She believed me, or at least acted like she did. Then, on a quiet Thursday night, I finally saw something I couldn't ignore. I'd set up an old phone in the living room, hidden behind some books on the shelf. It was a dumb, desperate move. I didn't even know what I expected to catch. But that night, I saw them. Ethan came over when I said I was working late. I wasn't. I parked around the corner and waited. He let himself in. It was all there on the footage. Lena meeting him at the door, smiling too wide. The way they embraced, not a friendly hug. It was longer. Slower. Their bodies didn't pull apart immediately. They just stood there, holding each other like it was normal. I stopped the video before I saw anything else. I didn't want to see more. I didn't need to. That night, I sat in my car for an hour before going inside. When I finally did, Lena was already in bed, reading. "Hey," she said, like nothing had happened. "You home late?" "Yeah," I replied. "Rough day." She nodded, went back to her book. I stood there for a minute, looking at her, trying to picture what I used to see. The girl I fell in love with. The girl I married. But all I could see now was a stranger in my bed. After that night, I knew everything had changed. But I didn't say a word. Not yet. Some part of me thought I needed more time, more evidence, more courage. But the truth is, I was scared. Not just of the confrontation, but of what would come after. The silence. The emptiness. The questions from friends and family. The disintegration of a life I'd spent years building. It's a strange kind of pain, knowing something like that and walking around with it like nothing happened. At work, I smiled. I answered emails. I went to meetings. At home, I kissed Lena goodnight, asked about her day, made dinner. But inside, I was unraveling. Every glance she gave me, every touch, every word, none of it felt real anymore. I started questioning everything. Were the early days of our relationship real? Was Ethan ever actually my friend? Had I just been the background character in someone else's story the entire time? And then there was the guilt. I blamed myself. I told myself I hadn't been attentive enough, hadn't noticed the signs early enough, hadn't done enough to keep our marriage alive. Maybe I pushed her away. Maybe I relied on Ethan too much. I went over every interaction, every fight, every decision I'd made in the past 5 years. It was exhausting. I stopped sleeping altogether. One night, around 2 a.m., I found myself on the couch, scrolling through old photos on my phone. There we were, Lena and I in the mountains on a hiking trip. Smiling. Sweaty. So in love. There was Ethan, too, in a few of them. Always close by. Always part of the picture. I stared at one photo in particular, Lena and Ethan sitting on a log, heads tilted toward each other, laughing about something. I was behind the camera. I wondered if that was the moment it started. Or maybe it was before that. Maybe it never started. Maybe it had always been there. The next morning, I decided I needed answers. Real ones. I waited until Lena left for work and went into her laptop. She used the same password for everything. I told myself I wouldn't look at much, just emails. Just enough to confirm what I already knew. But what I found wasn't just confirmation. It was a whole second life. There were emails. Dozens. Hundreds. And not just messages, they'd shared long threads about how they felt trapped, how they couldn't stop thinking about each other, how they wished things were different. There was one that stuck with me. Lena wrote. "I hate lying to him, but I can't help what I feel. You make me feel alive again. I didn't think I'd ever feel that way after we got married." It hit me like a punch to the chest. I sat there, just staring at the screen, barely breathing. She felt alive again. And I? What did I make her feel? Bored? Numb? Invisible? The worst part? I still loved her. Even after all of it. I still wanted to find a way back to what we had. I still wanted to believe there was a version of the story where this ended differently. But reality has a way of making sure you see things clearly, eventually. That night, I told Lena we needed to talk. We sat at the dining table, across from each other. The same table we'd eaten at for years. The same one where we'd shared birthdays, holidays, random Tuesday night dinners. It suddenly felt like a battlefield. She looked nervous. Like she knew. "What's wrong?" she asked. I didn't ease into it. I couldn't. "I know about you and Ethan." Her face changed instantly. Not shock. Not denial. Just this subtle tightening, like a mask falling away. She looked down at the table. No excuses. No outbursts. Just silence. "How long?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. "Then, a few months." I wanted to scream. Throw something. Cry. But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling like I'd been hollowed out. "Why?" I asked. She looked at me then. "I don't know. I didn't plan it. It just happened. We got close. We talked about things. I felt seen." "Seen?" I repeated. "You live with me. I've loved you for years. And you felt seen by him?" Her eyes welled up. "It's not about love. I do love you. Something got lost between us." "Then why didn't you talk to me? Why lie? Why keep going behind my back?" "I didn't want to hurt you." That made me laugh. Loudly. Bitterly. "Well, congratulations. You did." The rest of the conversation blurred after that. She cried. I didn't. She apologized. I didn't accept it. I couldn't. Not yet. When I asked her if she was still in love with Ethan, she didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I grabbed a pillow and a blanket and moved to the couch like some defeated cliché. Lena didn't stop me. She didn't follow me or try to convince me otherwise. She just stood in the hallway, her silhouette framed by the bedroom light, and then quietly closed the door. The couch wasn't comfortable. But that didn't matter. I wasn't looking for rest. I just needed distance. A physical barrier between me and the betrayal that had taken root in my home. I stared at the ceiling for hours. The strangest thing was that I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought tears would come and wash away some of the anger, the sadness, the humiliation. But they didn't. I just lay there, numb, like someone had flipped a switch inside me and turned everything off. The next morning, the house felt colder than usual. Lena made coffee but didn't say much. I sat at the table, sipping from the same mug I used every morning, wondering how everything could feel so normal when it was anything but. "I think I should go stay with my sister for a while," she said, finally breaking the silence. I didn't respond right away. "Okay," I said. "Probably for the best." She nodded. There was no fight left in either of us. Just resignation. She packed her things quietly. Just a suitcase and a few essentials. As she zipped it closed, I stood in the doorway watching her. I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. She moved like someone I used to know, someone I once trusted with every piece of myself. Before she left, she stopped in the living room. I was sitting on the edge of the couch, staring at the floor. "I'm sorry," she said again. I didn't look at her. "Yeah," I whispered. "Me too." And then she was gone. The door closed behind her with a soft click, but it echoed like a gunshot in my chest. The days that followed were some of the strangest of my life. I worked remotely, but I didn't really work. I opened emails and stared at them. I answered phone calls with a voice that didn't sound like mine. I ate out of habit, not hunger. Sleep came in fragments, and when it did, it was filled with dreams I'd rather forget. Friends started noticing something was off. My coworker Daniel asked if everything was okay during a Zoom meeting. I said I was just tired. Lena's sister texted me to check in. She didn't say Lena told her anything, but I knew she knew. Then, on the fourth night, Ethan called. His name flashed across my phone screen, and I stared at it like it was in a foreign language. My thumb hovered over the screen. I wasn't sure if I wanted to hear his voice or if I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I answered. "Hey," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. I just want to explain," he continued. "I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need to say it out loud. To you. I should have hung up. I know that. But curiosity, or something like it, kept me there. Go ahead, I said coldly. He paused. Then, it started with talks. Just talking. Lena was going through a rough patch. She felt like you weren't listening, and look, I didn't go into it intending for anything to happen. It just did. And once it started, I didn't know how to stop. I laughed. You didn't know how to stop. You've known me since we were kids, man. You knew exactly what this would do. I know. And I hate myself for it. I've never messed up like this. Ever. I never thought I'd be that guy. You are that guy, I snapped. You were supposed to be my brother. You were supposed to have my back. I know, he said again, voice cracking. I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Are you two still seeing each other? Silence. Answer me. No, he said finally. Not right now. Not right now, I repeated. So what, waiting for things to cool off before you pick up where you left off? It's not like that. Sure it is. He didn't argue. I ended the call without another word. That night, something shifted. I realized I'd been waiting, for an apology to mean something, for the pain to fade, for the world to make sense again. But it wouldn't. It never would. The apology wasn't for me. It was for them. For their guilt. For their conscience. I had to stop waiting. I started cleaning the house. Deep cleaning. Like scrubbing baseboards, moving furniture, organizing closets kind of cleaning. Not because the house needed it, but because I needed it. I needed to reclaim my space, my sanity, one room at a time. I boxed up photos. Took down the framed pictures of us smiling in distant cities, standing on beaches, laughing at inside jokes. I put them in the attic. Out of sight, not quite out of mind, but it helped. I started journaling. Just to get things out of my head. I wrote letters I'd never send. One to Lena. One to Ethan. One to myself. The one to myself was the hardest. I wrote. You didn't fail. You trusted. You loved. You gave what you had. That's not weakness. That's strength. Don't let their choices become your shame. It felt strange at first, comforting myself. But slowly, something inside me began to loosen. Not heal, not yet, but shift. Like ice cracking at the edge of spring. Then, a week after Lena left, I got a message. Not from her. Not from Ethan. From someone I barely knew, one of Lena's co-workers. Her name was Rachel. We'd met a few times at office parties. She messaged me late at night. Hey. I don't mean to stir things up. But I think you deserve to know, Lena and Ethan were seeing each other before your birthday. A few of us figured it out. She lied to you for a long time. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen, unsure what to say. It wasn't new information. Not really. But it was confirmation. From someone else. From outside my house, outside my mind. They hadn't made a mistake in a moment of weakness. They'd been building this behind my back for months. Rachel's message stayed with me. Not just because it confirmed what I'd suspected, but because it made everything feel final. Before that, a small part of me still clung to hope. Not the hope of reconciliation, maybe, but hope that I had misunderstood the scope of their betrayal. That it had been a recent lapse in judgment. That I hadn't been living alongside it, blind to the truth, for months. But I had. They'd planned around me. Whispered behind doors while I cooked dinner. Sent messages while I slept in the same bed. Shared looks at parties I hosted. Lied, not in moments, but every day. There's something corrosive about that kind of dishonesty. It eats into everything you thought you knew. I didn't just lose my wife and best friend. I lost my past. My memories. They felt tainted now, like looking at old photos and realizing someone was holding a knife behind their back the whole time. Still, I didn't respond to Rachel. What was there to say? Thanks for confirming I was the last one to know. Instead, I turned off my phone and went for a drive. I didn't have a destination. I just drove, windows down, letting the wind and engine noise drown out my thoughts. I ended up at this quiet overlook just outside of town, a place I used to go before I got married. Back when solitude didn't feel like punishment. I sat on the hood of my car, watching the horizon turn pink and gold as the sun went down. I thought about all the things I'd lost. The security. The routine. The small comforts of shared coffee and Sunday grocery runs. I thought about Lena's smile, the way it used to make me feel safe. I thought about Ethan's voice, how it used to be the one I called when I was falling apart. And I thought about how none of that was real anymore. But I also thought about something else. I was still standing. Betrayal didn't break me. It bruised me, yes. It shook my foundation. But it didn't destroy who I was. I didn't become bitter. I didn't turn cold. I didn't retaliate or lash out. I took the hit. I sat with the pain. And somehow, I was still here. That mattered. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Lena officially moved out. She didn't try to come back. We exchanged a few emails about logistics, bank accounts, car insurance, what to do about the dog we'd once planned to adopt. Ethan didn't reach out again. Word eventually got around. Friends reached out, some with disbelief, others with cautious sympathy. A few admitted they'd noticed something odd between Lena and Ethan but hadn't wanted to assume. I didn't hold it against them. We all want to believe the best about the people we love. But there was one message I got that hit differently. It was from a friend I hadn't seen in years, Jamie. We'd been close in college but drifted apart after graduation. She wrote. I saw what happened. I just want you to know, you're one of the kindest people I've ever met. I'm sorry you had to go through this. But I know you'll come out the other side stronger. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loaded with pity. It was just kind. And it came at a moment when I needed it most. We met for coffee a few days later. It wasn't a date, and it didn't need to be. It was a conversation. A reminder that there were still good people in the world. People who didn't lie. People who listened. People who showed up. And for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Not forced. Not bitter. Real laughter. It's been almost a year now. I've moved out of that house. Got a smaller place, just outside the city. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I painted the walls myself. Chose every piece of furniture. Rebuilt my life, piece by piece. I don't think about Lena and Ethan much anymore. When I do, it doesn't hurt the same way. It's more like remembering a bad dream, vague and weightless. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever forgive them. I don't know. Maybe. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't about giving someone else peace. It's about giving it to yourself. And I'm working on that part. Slowly. Quietly. One day at a time. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.